Hey guys, how's it going? Long time no see, eh? Okay, so after what being possibly the longest hiatus I've had on this channel, I figured what would be the best way to get back into for uploading. You know, like uploading videos, and I have been streaming though, but you know, it's been a long time since I uploaded long form content. Apple just had their Worldwide Developers Conference for 2024, fortunately, and you know, I figured I'd make a video whereby I talk about like everything they introduced, particularly Apple's take on AI, which we've all been waiting for. They had us in the first half, I'm not gonna lie, because they didn't mention that word for about 45 minutes into the keynote, and then they were like, boom, here's all our takes on this technological revolution that you guys have been waiting for the last, what, 2 years? And, you know, Samsung's done it, Google's done it, so Apple had their take on it. This video makes up my thoughts from the events, things that piqued my interest, things that I would have loved to see. And majority of the things I would have loved to see, half of it more or less stemmed from what was actually announced instead, and I went like, oh, that should have been the end. Yeah, I thought to just put it all into one video, so this is that video. Here is almost everything cooked up. This video is not meant to be a comprehensive recap of the entire event, as I only got to watch half of it and I followed the rest of the event via live tweets. This is almost everything that was mentioned during the keynote, probably everything you need to know for now. Vision Pro updates. Vision OS 2 already? That was probably the reaction most people had while watching the event, seeing as the Vision Pro only just released back in January in the USA. And speaking of expanded releases, Apple mentioned that the Vision Pro will be coming to Canada and a bunch of other major countries from Europe. Alongside other items, improvements in screen resizing will be brought to the headset when working with MacBooks. So when you connect the Vision Pro with your MacBook, then you'll be able to, you know, use it in much wider resolutions. I believe the ultra wide resolution was also introduced during the event. You can now convert your iPhone images into spatial images, which can only actually be viewed on the headsets, which makes a lot of sense. And there are more environments that were brought to the Vision Pro headset. I believe one of the environments that was brought to the Vision Pro headset was the Bora Bora environment, which apparently Mark Gurman tweeted that it looks really good. So it'll be actually interesting to see how that pans out later. The almost MVP, iOS 18 coming this fall. Now there are a lot of features for the iPhone software which ideally should go into its own video. However, there were still a large number of things, surprisingly a large number of features that got added to iOS, the upcoming iOS 18, which piqued a lot of interest for a Dub event. Not to say that we're familiar with these features. We've seen them in other phone software on Android and other versions of Android by other tech companies, but they hype rose for it because it's coming to the iPhone, and that's just how it is. Firstly, you'll be able to change the easily accessible icons on the lock screen, which is typically the camera and the touchlight and the camera, and you can easily change it to whatever native app you want, as well as some third-party apps. Snapchat was actually the highlight of this. This announced that your notifications can now be automatically prioritized for you, and there's a new gesture, or about 2 gestures coming to the AirPods, which allows you to accept or reject calls through a nod of your head or a shake of your head respectively. The home screen, which was one of the focal points of this update, now has added customization. Not new to phone software really, but you can now lock apps on the home screen using Face ID, and you can hide apps from the home screen. Just like before you could hide certain pages from the home screen, now you can actually hide certain apps. If you think that sounds familiar, there's actually now a dark mode for home screen icons, which basically gives every single app on the home screen a dark mode version. And we don't really have to live with the light mode version of app icons we've had for what the current and past iOS operating systems without jailbreaking the iPhone. More so, you can now set a single monotone color for every single icon on the home screen, including third-party apps, which is actually a really nice touch. And we cannot forget that now you can place icons wherever you want on your home screen to really let that wallpaper take charge. The control center has a new look and now has scrollable pages, so you can categorize controls in that aspect of the home screen for whatever it is you want in particular. And as I tweeted earlier, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about even more rounded control center icons with the new iOS 18 update. The multi-page feature actually seems nice, but why? Truthfully, there were a lot of features that were announced during the iOS 18 update, which Apple typically does with the rest of their iPhone updates, and they tend to grow and oscillate, sometimes they just tend to die out. Having your fully synced iPhone emulated on your MacBook for easier continuity. So it's called iPhone mirroring, and you can essentially use your entire iPhone on your MacBook as though you would on the phone itself. I feel like that's probably the best update of iOS 18, in my opinion. Now we move deeper into the artificial intelligence discourse of the keynote. iMessage gets a huge revamp with TLDR, which essentially summarizes your text for you, a deeper provision and understanding of context within your messages so Siri can prove more useful with certain tasks and more complex requests, as well as a greater variety of send expressions and emoji reactions. What that means is you have more ways you can send text to people and more tap-back reactions than the other 6 we had, which is just a laughing reaction, an exclamation reaction, I believe was a question mark, thumbs up, thumbs down, and a heart reaction. As with Image Playground, we're also introduced to Genmojis, which essentially allows you to create emojis of your own via any prompt. It's actually going to be a wild time to see what people are going to create, particularly the memes on Twitter are going to be crazy, to be honest. Also, do you remember Memojis and Animojis? You know, Apple's avatar-like feature, just like Snapchat had, where you could record videos, create videos, images, and even have FaceTime calls with like certain emojis, a wide variety of emojis, or even your own personal avatar. Yeah, that one. I saw this on Reddit, but it seems like Genmojis, just like Memojis and Animojis, might actually, in the later future, take that same trajectory, you know, that the latter two did, where everyone is just hyped about it when it first comes out, and then much later it just dies down. Well, very interesting to see what people come up with, to be honest. Lastly, I really wish Apple would work on their peeking feature for iMessage text. So, you know, just like WhatsApp, when you get a text notification and you don't really want to read it or let it get marked as read for whoever it is you're texting, and you can just like hold it down and then it shows you a preview of some of the messages, not everything though. With Apple and iMessage, what happens is when you do that, it automatically marks as read and it shows you every single thing. I do believe that Apple needs to work on that marking as read receipts kind of feature. That's just me though. I want to talk about Apple Mail. You know, Apple's major mailing service that a lot of you probably don't use. And I use it. There are a lot of features that it has that actually piques my interest. There's no shame in that. It doesn't seem like it got so much of the right updates that I would have loved to see. Categorization has now been added to Mail, and what that means is certain similar emails can be grouped automatically for you. But during the keynote, it doesn't seem like it's going to be able to group newsletters and subscription campaigns, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people who use the mailing service by Apple probably have. More so, Apple, it's 2024 and we still cannot pin emails in the Mail app. That shouldn't be too hard to do. For WatchOS, among other features, workout tracking will now be able to tell you how intensive your workout was versus how intensive it actually should have been. Calculator is now on iPad. Speaking of tracking, the iPad was released in 2011 and it's taken Apple 13 years to finally bring a native calculator app to the iPad. So should we just completely ignore this like it never happened, or it didn't take Apple so long to bring a simple app such as this? Well, as I also tweeted, if it takes you 13 years to add an in-house calculator app to your standard tablet, or you introduce something like Math Notes with it, you can be well assured that all is forgiven. Math Notes will be a new tool on the iPad, which also comes to the iPhone, that can solve your calculations for you as you write them and provide answers in your handwriting in real time. It can also generate graphs and possibly charts for you. I have to say, well played, Apple. It's very fitting of you, but well played. macOS Sequoia. I'm not going to delve too deep into this, but you should know that Apple has integrated a bunch of Apple intelligence features with writing tools to finally put Grammarly out of business. So when the OS finally releases, users will have a variety of features such as rewrite, proofread, and summarize that can use across a number of apps. As mentioned earlier with iMessage, Mail also has summarization features for your most recent emails that can also generate context and give you simple rundowns of whatever new mails you get, just like Gemini on the Google Pixel. Oh, and Mail also gets the same notification prioritization features for your emails. Nice. There's also a new passwords app on Mac that will be on macOS Sequoia, which basically brings an already existing Apple feature with storing and managing passwords and passkeys to its own separate apps. And I think that was a really good touch by Apple. That's very cool. Apple Intelligence, Siri, and OpenAI. Apple mentioned on stage that Siri with Apple Intelligence will now have two forms of task resolution. So there's going to be on-device machine learning and cloud computing, the latter of which uses servers made with Apple Silicon. The real ticker is Siri, with your permission, will now be able to use GPT-4o, that GPT-4o from OpenAI, and you'll be able to use it to solve much more complex tasks and even much more difficult requests from you. As you're already thinking, Apple mentioned that your information and your data will not actually be stored by OpenAI to be able to create and connect multiple different contexts and have different knowledge, more and more knowledge of you as a user. But I personally like to think that has its downsides as much as people are very sentimental about their data. Let's get into it. Stay with me here. If OpenAI cannot create or connect multiple different contexts about you as a user, then how can it be much more useful, to be honest? I mean, that's like the point of growth with artificial intelligence assistants. Even so that if you're giving Siri permission to be able to access GPT-4o, to be able to solve whatever task it is you gave to Siri, then without the context, how can it be much more useful? So I feel there was more or less a dilemma with Apple on this partnership with OpenAI on Siri and GPT, to be honest. But we'll see how that goes. Here's the hot take. I do think it would be more beneficial if OpenAI could actually, or Siri could actually connect to your OpenAI account for ChatGPT as a user. Because you ask a lot of tests and requests on ChatGPT if you're using ChatGPT. And more times than not, those requests translate into your work on your Apple devices if you use like an iPhone or even a MacBook or an iPad. So there might be more benefits if Siri could just have access, or let me say limited access with your permission to your OpenAI account as a user. Then again, it is still just a thought really, as people are more and more skeptical about their data. But I'm pretty sure there is more data that is being siphoned off us that we are even aware of, to be honest. Also, in the aspect of hardware AI assistants, such as the Humane AI Pin and the Rabbit R1, they're relevant, so at least a reason for people to actually get one of those devices, even though we've seen that from the reviews that it's not actually a good device to buy. It's going to be even much more harder to procure at this point. Seeing as more and more tech companies continue to integrate their own artificial intelligence models with their already popular gadgets. Perhaps in the future, when AI in our everyday tasks becomes so niche that smartphones, laptops, tablets that have integrated AI models become too broad for the casual user, and so we might actually see these hardware assistants begin to state their relevance. So now with all of this, the thought that's prevalent in my head is Samsung's done it with their Samsung Galaxy AI event that they had earlier in the year, although I do think they missed out on calling it Galaxy Brain. And Google's done it with Gemini, although Google Assistant seems to just be aimlessly floating in the water right now on their phones. And Apple is doing it, has done it with Apple Intelligence across all their devices. So the next phase of growth and updates is actually going to be very wild and crazy to think about. Privacy chatter with Elon Musk, and Elon tweeted during the Apple event that he potentially will ban Apple devices at his companies if Apple integrates OpenAI at an OS level, due to it being an unacceptable security violation. If you follow all the drama that happened between Elon Musk and Sam Altman is the CEO of OpenAI, you would know what this is all about, to be honest. Great to see 2024 be the year of CEOs taking digs at one another in a very Betsy manner, honestly. And that wraps up my thoughts on WWDC Day 1 at Apple and almost everything they talked about. I'll be looking to make more videos of specific features that we talked about during the keynote, potentially when they're all released. Oh, and in case you missed it, Apple's Apple Intelligence will not be coming to the base iPhone 15 model. Only the Pro iPhones and beyond will be getting it. So it's going to be interesting to see how iOS 18 comes to the base iPhone 15 model, seeing as I actually have one. If you're not already, subscribe to the channel, like this video if you enjoyed it, and follow me on Twitter. Yes, I still call it that. At MICGR8T. I tweet a lot of my thoughts on technology and other stuff on there. More so, I recently started a series where I share with you really cool websites that you should visit once in your life. And let us chat in the comments. Let me know what you guys thought of WWDC and how Apple has actually really behaved in the year 2024. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.